Hey guys, my name is Rebecca. Is that too happy for depression video, you think? Hey guys, my name is Rebecca. Welcome to my channel. So I wanted to make this video and this whole channel because I believe I have been cured of my depression, more or less. That's not a good word to use, but you don't hear that often, and I believe it's for tons of reasons, tons of different things, and a lot of which I wanted to go over with this channel in the hopes that I could maybe help someone dealing with their depression. I have kind of had a long history with depression. I've been a psychiatric nurse for about 4 years, but I've also dealt with it myself, and I've had some family deal with it as well. So before anything, I wanted to make this video in the hopes that some of you might be like, okay, well, in the future videos, okay, she kind of knows what she's talking about. She's been dealing with it for a while. So the first story I have, my first kind of experience with depression happened when I was about 5. My dad committed suicide. He actually hung himself. And I remember so vividly that day of being told my dad had died. But my grandparents came down, and my first question was, how? Why? How did this happen? And I believe they said it was a car accident. I believe is what they said at first, that he died in a car accident. And I don't remember if I stuck with that story or if I really believe that story or anything, but I found out what really happened when I was in 3rd grade. That's still a little young to comprehend what that means. So what you first go to, even when you're a kid, is like, did I do something? Was I not a good kid? Could I have loved him more? Could I have hugged him more? Could that have changed something? But you can't really understand what suicide is. And as I've grown up, I've realized that you can't really understand that, or I didn't have a chance of understanding that until you've been through it yourself. So it's just really hard as a kid. You grow up asking like a lot of questions, and you really don't understand until you've kind of been through something like it. So then you can kind of start to understand, like, it had nothing to do with me. It had nothing to do with what kind of kid I was or my sister was. I couldn't have done anything different for him to decide to stay. He didn't decide really to leave. It's not exactly like he was making the choice. You just understand a lot of that a lot better. So my next kind of thing, growing up, I really didn't have any depression issues, I wouldn't say. I've had, like, the normal breakups, and you go through like a lot of distress and pain and stuff, especially with your first. I feel like that was the worst. But anyway, the depression wasn't really there until college. So in college, I actually got recruited to play lacrosse. And I had a boyfriend at the time that went to school like 4 hours away. So like a long distance relationship. And when it first kind of happened, I didn't know what to call it either. That was kind of like, it was long enough ago. It wasn't that long, but it was long enough ago that depression wasn't like super talked about, and like I didn't have a word for it initially. And I also thought, why is this happening? I play sports, like I have a boyfriend, I'm getting good grades, I have a perfect college life, a perfect college experience. What am I feeling this way for? Like, it was just very hard to understand what I was feeling that way for. I remember a couple things really specifically, like one of the first few weeks, I think, all the freshmen went to a party and the whole lacrosse team went to the party. And I was never a party person anyway, but I just said, no, like, I don't want to go. And I went for a run. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and I went for a run around the city. It was kind of in a city, so that wasn't a good idea. But went for a run and just cried and just sobbed on the run. And that's when now that sounds kind of like, okay, people do that. I don't know, but that was so not normal for me. I was just like, whoa, something's like wrong if I'm doing this. This is weird. Another thing, I would skip some classes and stay in bed. I didn't want to get out of bed, didn't really want to eat. And there was one run. We went to the DC area. My school's in the DC area. And we were running around DC, and we were as a team, and we were looking at all the monuments. And I remember feeling super like woozy and about to faint because I just like wasn't interested in eating, and I wasn't interested in, of course, any of the stuff we were looking at, and the team bonding. Like, it was just all just so fleeting and not important to me at that time. Unfortunately, I ended up quitting the lacrosse team, which now I like super regret, but I know at that time that it probably wouldn't have been feasible and probably was the right decision for me to do that, but that's definitely something I don't look fondly on back in the day. But yeah, so I quit the team. I wrote a whole note on my phone explaining like my situation to my coach, because I was like, I can't improvise this. I can't explain what I'm feeling coherently. There's no way. So I'm gonna need a note. So I read off the note, and before I left, I think she convinced me to stay for a certain amount of time and see what happens. But then I got home, and then I explained to my mom that she tried to get me to stay, but I just couldn't bear it. And so my mom called her and explained that I just couldn't do it. And I lived at home at this time. I thought moving home, because it was close enough, would have helped, but it didn't. So after that, I ended up seeing a therapist, and with the therapist, I think I ended up going once. Like, I might have made it twice, but I think I ended up only going once. And that was also regrettable. But back then I was just young, and I definitely didn't understand therapy. I had no idea what it consisted of. I kind of thought it was going to be someone just listening to my problems and kind of feeling sorry for me, or being very motherly. Because I had a mother like that that's just like lovely and just wants to empathize with you and everything. But therapy can be hard, and I think she asked some tough questions, and we did some visualizations, and I didn't really get it. I was like, this I don't know, is this supposed to make me feel better? I don't know. And at that time too, I had like synthesized this information with depression and figured, you know what, like, it's genetic. It's got to be genetic. My dad killed himself. It's like, I have a perfect life, what I thought was a perfect life, and it's got to be genetic. That's all it is. So like, what's therapy going to do if it's genetic? So that's kind of where I had gone, which was not the best place, and certainly is not the best place for anyone to go. Then I had gone to my PCP, and she prescribed me Zoloft. So I ended up taking a medication, and it ended up helping. I remember my mom emailing the therapist and saying she's on medication now, like she'd rather not go to therapy or something to that effect. But I was taking the Zoloft. It helped for a little while, and then as a lot of people probably know, as a lot of you guys know, it stops doing its job. And then they have to increase it or add additional medication onto your regimen. And what was for me, we kept increasing it, and I would get some weird side effects, and then she decided to add Wellbutrin onto it as well. I would definitely like to make a whole video on this, because having been on it and being a psychiatric nurse, I've done tons of research, and just to figure out more what I was feeling and if this was common and all this stuff. A prominent side effect I had was not wanting to eat. I just wasn't really interested in food, and I didn't feel hunger the way I used to, I guess is how I would say it. And so I took those all of college, and once I quit them, I actually still have that slightly. So I don't know, it could be a number of other factors, I suppose, but I do still have that original, I think, side effect years later. And that's not normal for some people. Some people want to eat a lot. That side effect is not usually listed. So depending on your body, you'll get all different things, and some may not even be listed on the medication bottle. So having kind of been through all that, I definitely wouldn't do it again. Would probably never take an antidepressant again. But if you are on one and you're interested in getting off of it, definitely talk to your doctor. And if it's working for you, that's amazing. I hope it always works for you, and I hope it always does what it's supposed to do. My doctor, who was actually a lovely doctor, she was so sweet and really nice. But she told me at one point that I would have to take it for the rest of my life. I don't know what brought it up. I think I mentioned probably something, and she just said, yeah, you'll most likely be on this the rest of your life. And, you know, having been a lovely doctor, that's a terrible thing to say to like a 19-year-old, no matter what they're taking. Any prescription medication, you probably shouldn't tell a 19-year-old they're going to be on it for life. That's just gives a skewed expectation, because now I'm off of it and have been for a while, and certainly do not want it, and I don't believe I need it whatsoever. So as a doctor, I just probably would stay away from saying blanket statements like that. Anyway, from my final transition kind of off of the antidepressant after college, and my final kind of story of like what happened after college. So I became a nurse after college, and I kind of knew I wanted to do psychiatric nursing just because of what happened with my dad, and I wanted to help people like him that maybe sought out help. My dad never sought out help, but anyone else that sought out help, I thought, wow, wouldn't it be lovely to save a bunch of kids even from the fate of their parent, of something happening to their parent that they have to deal with like their whole lives. So anyway, that's what I wanted to do. I ended up getting a job with a fairly large kind of city hospital. Like it was a trauma one center, like kind of a big hospital, which I only say that because it definitely meant I dealt with very acute, very serious inpatient disorders, people with pretty serious disorders, and saw a lot of like crazy things. Didn't just deal with depression, obviously, dealt with some schizophrenia, like psychosis, anxiety, like you name it, we took it, we dealt with it. As a nurse, if anyone else is a nurse or knows a nurse, it can be very stressful and very anxiety inducing, depression inducing, and there's days where you are miserable and don't want to go to work, certainly. I was kind of dealing with mood stuff throughout that process just because of being a nurse, I think. I think all my stuff was kind of mainly due to that, just the stress of having a new job, being out of college, becoming like an adult. After that kind of stint of nursing, my then boyfriend, now husband, we decided to move to a more rural area because my family was here where we are now. And I started to do home health here initially, which was more on the medical side, but we definitely dealt with psychiatric issues, dementia issues, stuff like that. And then after that, I moved on to a smaller facility, definitely less acute psychiatric issues, but they had patients with psychiatric issues on one side and then addiction issues on the other side, and you kind of worked both. So I got to experience both of that. Throughout all that, my depression was kind of in the background. I would have days that are just kind of like meh days where you just kind of feel not like alive. You don't really feel like yourself. You don't really feel like you're living. It's just kind of meh. It's not really like super depressed, and nothing like I dealt with in college, but just kind of didn't feel like myself. So through working in all those places with nursing, I have done a ton of research because I was trying to be a really good nurse, really know my stuff in having to do with where I was working and who I was working with, in the hopes that I could better help them and better do my job. But it turned out it kind of led me to the opposite. It kind of led me to believing that as a psychiatric nurse, I was doing a lot of harm in a lot of ways. And that's not to say, nurses are harmful. Psychiatric nurses are lovely and we need them so badly. But I just felt personally like I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. I wasn't helping people like my dad in the way that I would have hoped that he was helped, I guess, if that makes sense. It kind of made me come to the conclusion that modern medicine and depression, combining those two, is, in my opinion, not the best idea. And oftentimes I think, in my opinion, again, it treats depression entirely wrong. So that's kind of what I want to illuminate in my future videos with what I found, and just give you my 2 cents and what I experienced, and then just some, research to back it up, because there's plenty, really. And there's always going to be like a disclaimer up there that you should definitely see your doctor, definitely talk to your doctor. I am just, even as a nurse, I am no longer nursing, but even as a nurse, I don't think my opinion would qualify as expert advice. So I'll always have the disclaimer up there. My hope with this would just be that if one person watches this and finds any usefulness in it, if anyone can relate to my experience, that would be lovely. I didn't really find the fulfillment that I wanted to in nursing, and I really felt like, as I said, I wasn't helping people. So if I could help anybody this way, that would just be amazing. So I'll always have my email in the description if you would like to talk. If anything like resonated with you, just please email me, please leave a comment, please do any of that. I just, like, I am literally here to help. I just want to help you. Yeah, but anyway, that felt like it was super long-winded, but thank you for making it through the whole thing. I hope you found something helpful. I hope you're feeling okay. I hope you're doing okay. And if I can do anything for you, if you need anything, please use the email in the description. Please. I didn't just put it there for fun. Please use it. And otherwise, yeah, I'll see you next time, hopefully. Okay, bye.